Hey everyone, today's guest is a really good friend of mine. In fact, he's probably a great friend of everybody's. Everybody who knows him speaks highly of him. He hates the name celebrity chef, but he is a chef that's on TV. Phil Vickery is the resident chef on This Morning on ITV. He is also the founder of Phil Vickery's Seriously Good Gluten Free, of which we work very closely with him. I'm really grateful because Phil gave us a lot of time chatting when he should have been tending to his pigs on his day off. And he probably should have been wrapping presents for the family, as it was the week before Christmas. We covered a lot of topics from his early days to now. So I really do hope you enjoy this episode. Be sure to subscribe to us on your podcast player of choice. You will now find us on the following: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, and loads of other Android apps as well. So, thanks for your time, guys, and I hope you really enjoy it. So, Phil, thanks for having me in your lovely home, mate.
Pleasure, absolute pleasure.
And I thought, it's long overdue, isn't it, really?
I think it is. I thought you'd been here before, you haven't, obviously.
No, never. The area feels familiar, but I've travelled all over the UK, as you know.
You always do, every week.
Yeah.
You always pass in the front door.
Oh, here we go. That's what I hear all the time. You pass the front door and
but
you
don't
never
come
pop
in.
in. So, I could say the same about you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
how
many times did you do work at Aldi and you never knocked on my front door?
Yeah, I didn't know you did.
I didn't. Still.
That's 3 years ago.
Still, come on. So I thought, we always talk to each other, and I thought at some point we've got to record this conversation and let everybody else listen to us. So
it's not really interesting, don't worry.
I think people get bored listening to me talk, so by bringing somebody else in, it always makes it...
I'm just a washed-up old chef. That's what I am.
Oh, here we go. Washed up old chef.
Yeah, washed up, grey old chef.
So let's start at the beginning.
Yeah.
Where did it all start? Like, you brought up in Folkestone.
Yeah, I was born in Folkestone. I went to school in Dover. Catholic upbringing, which is fine. I quite enjoyed it. My dad was a post office worker. He ended up being head of technical service in the post office. My mother was... I worked in shipping insurance. She did it for years. And then when computers came in, she said, I can't handle it. So she packed it all in. But, we weren't rich by any stretch of imagination. We lived in the country, which I loved. And we used to go to Blackpool for holidays, see my parents, my mother and father, which was lovely. And I think I was 21 before I got on a plane. So, it was good. It was a nice, loving, home to grow up in.
Mm-hmm. And you 2 brothers, is it? 2
brothers, one older, one younger. Chris was a doctor. My younger brother's a farrier.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was Kent champion years ago. He's old and crusty like me now, but he was quite good at one point, apparently.
So, were you did you have middle child syndrome?
What does that mean?
It's like when you get really needy because you're the middle child.
Oh, no. If anything, I was a bit of the rebel. I was the one that wouldn't take discipline, I suppose, is the answer. I'm thinking back.
Well, you did become a chef, which I'm guessing your parents weren't too pleased about.
No, they weren't. Yeah. My brother did the medical route, and so I was meant to be a vet. And I remember saying in probably 75, Mum wanted to be a chef. And I remember her saying to me, oh my God, you want to be a cook? Oh, good luck with that one. And that was the only encouragement they ever really gave me, if I've been honest. Yeah. And then, bear in mind, when I was at school, I was in a seaside town, and you either went down the mines, which the Kent coalfield was massive in those days, or they went on the ferries and worked on the ferries. And I remember his name was Mr. Capon. He sat opposite like us now and said, oh, what are you going to do? And you're going to go in the pit? And I said, no, I said, I want to be a chef. And he looked at me. He went, really? I said, yeah. So I did day release from school in my 5th year at school. They just started a course. It was in Folkestone. I loved it because it means I didn't have to go to school for the day. That's wear uniform. And I learned to cook. It's basic stuff, but I won Student of the Year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So my parents didn't believe me. And then I thought, I'm going to do it as a living. And bear in mind, it was, a seaside hotel. It was seen as a very poor job. It was not seen as an exciting job. It was really badly paid.
See, I'm guessing that your parents understood the reality of chefing more than what people do today. Because I think people probably see what's on TV today and think, it's dead easy. But, when you said to your mum, I want to be a chef, she probably knew this is hard graft.
Yeah, and she said to me, it's hard work, long hours, you won't see your friends. And it's true. For the first year, I would go work every night. My mates who I went to school with, they were car mechanics, they were working on the ferries, they had loads of money, and they were out every night. And I was working Friday, Saturday, but it never really bothered me. I didn't have a problem with that. It was just work, and I really enjoyed it, and I excelled at it because I didn't have to try too hard.
Yeah.
And I remember I did judo for years when I was a young boy, and I was a Kent champion once. And I fought internationally for Britain and stuff like that, and my brother was in as well. And I got to a stage where I just get bored with it. I wanted to play football. And I remember my father saying to me years and years ago, my father said to me, the trouble with you, boy, is you give up and the going gets tough. You get so far natural talent and you give up. And I thought, even now I remember that.
Is it necessarily tough or just boredom?
In hindsight, I think it was, I just wanted to move on to something else. I've done that. I'd become Kent champion. So what? British schools judo champion. Let's do something else. Yeah. But he didn't see it that way. He saw it as just giving up and being a bit lazy. But I think all my life it's been like that. I do a certain job. I get to a certain standard. Running marathons. I ran marathons for years. The first marathon I did was a guy called Ian. He said to me, you can't run marathons. I said, no, I can't. I thought, why not? I was only 25. So I ran a marathon. Then it was run one without stopping. And then literally the third one was to get under 3 hours. And I trained for 2 years, got under 3 hours, and overnight stopped. Took up cycling. Did a bit of cycling for a bit, loved that, then I took up squash.
It all sounds like far too much effort, to be honest.
Well, I just get bored, I get bored very, very quickly, and I suppose to detriment of my career possibly at some point where I didn't stick at it and do certain things. I just couldn't be bothered with arseholes, and I just was like, I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah. Well, you see, so if we just look at the chef side, let's say the training, what would you say is different from then and today? Right,
when I first took my job in the Burlington Hotel in Folkestone, walked in the kitchen, the head chef was 58, the sous chef was 70-odd, 75, the largest chef was 58, the pastry chef was 70, Jean, his name was, French guy. It was so different. I walked into the larder section. The kitchen had a whole larder, the whole section, veg, larder, pastry. Had a slate sink, no hot water. And the first job I had to do was skin live eels. Came in a sack, and they'd put nails on. You put them through the eyes and skin them off. And
so it's true. Yeah.
And that was proper cooking. And Jean, the pastry chef, said to me, "You want to learn how to make croissant brioche? You come in at 4 o'clock when I show you." He was at the end of his career, and he showed me how to make croissant brioche, and he would pull little sugar roses to go on.
Oh, really?
And this was just like he did it every day. I'm going back nearly 40 years, and that inspired me. Oh my God! And someone gave me a book. I've still got it in my office. Warren's Everyday Cookery, 1936. A caretaker area left over from a jumble sale, and it's got wonderful coloured plates of all this food, and that was it. I thought, I want to do this, and I did it. Then I got sacked. Because I refused to do breakfast. I'd done 2 in a row, and nobody else did any, so he sacked me. So, that was right out of college. Anyway, he phoned me up and said, would you come back? I said, go on, I'll come back. So I went back, and I said, look, I'll come back on one thing, and that is that I'm leaving. He said, fair enough, I'll get a job. And I wrote 10 letters all around the country to the best hotels at the time, and two responded. One was Michael's Nook in Grasmere, and one was the Pier at Harwich. And I went down for both interviews, and I got a job. And I literally got on the train, left my mum at 19, went to the Lake District, and that was it. Never came home for a year.
So, what was that like?
It was tough.
Yeah.
It was tough, but my grandparents lived in Blackpool and Preston, Leyland, Blackburn, around that area, and my cousins. So I was electric. Couldn't afford a car. I thumbed down for the Lake District, thumbed everywhere, played football, loved it. With a lot of mates in Blackpool, thumb back. It was brilliant. So it wasn't like I was going away completely. And I loved it. And I spent 5 years there in the end.
So I did a little bit of research, so I don't want to act like
Not Wikipedia.
I know everything.
It's all rubbish on Wikipedia.
It wasn't a lot, to be fair.
It says I'm 36.
It wasn't.
Are you not?
Are you not? So, what was, you were working at a Michelin-star restaurant.
I've worked on a few.
Yeah. But at this one in particular, you were earning £110.
That was in Wincheap in Canterbury. For
What was the role there? What were you there?
It was my first sous chef job.
Okay.
My first. So bear in mind still, when I went to the good kitchens, and bear in mind every kitchen I've ever worked in, very good, was like Gordon's. They were like pressure cookers. So you just did your bit. You didn't care, and you had to be really good to get anywhere. And when I went to a restaurant, a kitchen, I'd look around all the sections, pastry chef, larder chef, and I wanted to be better than them.
Yeah.
And that's what I model myself on. Until I could do that, I wouldn't leave. So I'd do all the sections. And then once I'd done that, I knew I could be a number 2.
Yeah.
And there's nothing worse than being in a position of responsibility or a level of cooking where they come to you and say, Chef, why isn't this working? I don't know. You need to know those answers. And that's what no one's infallible, but I wanted to be there. So I went to Ian McAndrew. He had a Michelin star. I was there 3 months, and I thought, you know what, I can do this myself. And I cooked for him for a year. I was his number 2. In actual fact, the chef de partie, or senior chef de partie, was a guy called Paul Kitchen. He's now got a place in Edinburgh. He's got a Michelin star. He was like the 3rd chef.
Yeah.
And it was great. I loved it. And then that was when I knew that I could do it. And that gave me the confidence then to go elsewhere as a sous chef.
So, and you worked in a lot of Michelin star restaurants and the Rosettes and all that. Yeah. And what do you think? Because now I've known you for 5-6 years, and you don't seem not impressed. You don't seem drawn by that no more.
No, I think I spent so long doing it still. And I remember when I had my Michelin star for 4 years, I think it was, and I had 4 rosettes in the air guide for 5 or 6 years. I can't remember after I left. And those 5 years, I worked so hard to keep them that I got to 40 and thought, do you know what? I've done this. I've done it. I've done it for all these years. And before I'm too old, it's a bit like a wave. I think you stun this wave and you're up here on your Michelin star, and then great, you're there for a few years, and then suddenly, when you're at the top, there's only one way, and that's to go down. And it becomes this very slow circle down. Before you know it, you're at the bottom. Yeah. So I look at it as jumping off onto the next one. My hand was slightly forced at the time because I was sacked illegally, as it transpired. But that was all by the by, really. But it sort of forced me to become self-employed and look at other things. And I think, in a way, it really helped me. It really helped me look further my career and look at other things. And I, as I said to you before, I get bored. I've done the Michelin star. I've been Restaurant of the Year in the Times, Jonathan Meades. I've been Dessert Chef of the Year, Meat Chef of the Year, County Restaurant of the Year in the Good Food Guide, 8 out of 10, 4 rosettes for 5 years. I've done it all. And I thought, well, is this it? Is this it? So let's do something else.
So obviously, those were great goals to attain, but do you think they're as important today to people, like to
tongue in cheek, I take the mickey, but I think, when I got my Michelin star, there was 32, I think, in the whole of the British Isles, 1, 2s and 3s. And to get one was just like amazing. And nowadays, I think they give them out a bit like confetti. I think it's 150 now. Yeah. I'm not saying they don't work hard to get that, but the emphasis was huge. When you got a star, Marco Pierre White, for instance, will not shake your hand unless you've had a Michelin star. He won't even look at you.
Oh, really?
But once you got a star, he will shake your hand and respect you. Bit old school. Yeah. But I can see why, and I can understand the reason why he does that. And I get a bit disillusioned with the standard of cooking. I think the technical side is very clever. Some of it looks great, but it just doesn't have any soul. And I think that's the key. And very rarely do I go to restaurants now where they have soul in their cooking. I had one this past year. I've had one very good meal. 2 actually. One in Glasgow, and I had one at the Hidden Hut down in Cornwall. They were the only 2 that stood out for me for being really technically very good, but tasted beautiful. Simple food, deliciously cooked. I mean, it was fabulous. And I can't remember a place in Scotland. God, I should know. I'll come back to that stuff.
So, because we were talking a little about it before, weren't we, about how, everything's sous vide and, and it's almost like the homogenisation of the food industry, isn't it? Everything's starting to become very samey. Very
samey, texturally, certainly, with sous vide cooking. No, I'm not saying we can't embrace technology. We have to. You could argue that an oven was technology. Of course,
of course. Yeah.
And I think in its place, it's very good. I think sous vide for certain things, i.e. pheasant, probably wild pheasant, wild rabbit, certainly. Perhaps leg of pork. Perhaps drier cuts
The
of
tougher,
meat.
drier cuts,
Yes,
yeah.
I think yes, they're perfect. But I cannot understand why chefs put an egg in a bag, or a piece of mackerel, or a piece of salmon, or vegetables. Some like salsify, yeah, fair enough. They discolour. I just don't understand why they put Bramley apples in to make a puree. Oh my God, just cook it in a pan. That worries me about the industry, that technically when those things go wrong or you don't have them, you're breeding generation of chefs that can't cook any other way.
Yeah.
Fantastic to embrace them, but you need to be very careful. There's a bedrock that when that all fails, or you go to a restaurant that doesn't have one, you can still cook.
That makes complete sense.
Yeah.
And so, was it? What year did you start on Ready Steady Cook? Well, at least your first appearance.
Was it 94?
Okay.
Maybe 95.
So that was probably in the early days then, when it started, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think I was the second last of what I called the original chefs. I went on, and then James Martin came behind me. I think he was the last one of the original crew to be taken on. And it was good. Gordon didn't like us.
Did he not?
No, he called us Ready Steady C's.
Yes. Yeah.
But I've seen Gordon since then, and he's the biggest whore in the world now. I love it. Love him.
You said that.
I love him. No,
Yeah,
he is. I love him. And he's commercial. And to me, it was a commercial decision. And at the same time, I did a BBC holiday programme. Nick Nairn couldn't do it, so they sent me to Zanzibar to do the Spice Islands.
Oh, wow.
And Jill Dando introduced it, so we sent Phil Vickery. And the impact of that one programme, I think you get 8-9 million viewers, and Ready Steady Cook filled the restaurant.
Wow.
Overnight, Stell. We were rammed. We were absolutely rammed, and that was the power of television. And I did Ready Steady Cook with Vinnie Jones, one of the celebrity ones. Used to go in the evening. 9 million.
Wow.
Got 9 million people. So
that's amazing. It's pre-social media, isn't it?
Oh, correct. Yeah, and it was fantastically successful. And I didn't realise the impact on my life, certainly, and also the business. And it just blew us away. We went to Brass. We did £1 million turnover first year.
Wow.
And that's the power of telly. That is the power of telly.
That's pretty amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you did 200 appearances on that
I think
show.
it might have been more than that, but
wow.
certainly 200. I did it for about 10, 12 years, I think it was. And then we did the Ready Steady Cook tour around the UK. So we went to theatres. We were filling theatres, matinees, 3,500 people. Remember we did the Good Food Show. And first thing that sold out was Ready Steady.
And what other chefs were with you? Because I remember...
Nick Nairn, Paul Rankin.
I remember them too.
Brian Turner, Auntie Royal Thompson. Who else was there? Patrick Anthony and Tony Tobin.
Do you still
James
see many
Martin.
of them or talk
No,
to them?
Nick Nairn and I get on. Paul Rankin we see occasionally. There's a few of the guys I see.
Them two seem pretty close on Twitter, don't they? So
Joined at the hip, them too. That's occasionally, but I don't. There's very few people I keep in contact in there, really.
But you're busy anyway. It's not like you've retired. You're busy. You've still got. You still work very hard.
No, I do work very hard. This morning was an example of that. I've done that. I think that's 19 years. Yeah. So that's been very good for me. I've been on at least once a week for 19 years.
Wow.
I remember somebody saying, it's only daytime telly, but as my wife said, I've made a complete career out of daytime telly.
Wow.
And I love it. I've been to 32 countries now. I've made over 200 films for them. And so I'm a very lucky boy.
That's pretty amazing.
Very lucky. As my brother said, when are you going to get a real job?
Yeah, well, you do keep honest with pigs, don't you?
I do. Yeah.
So,
that was a hobby that started with 2. I'm going to be a pig farmer. And I got ripped off and I bought the wrong ones. And now I'm up to 80.
Wow.
And on a year cycle, I've got 2 down at the moment, which are going to be about half a tonne.
Any particular breeds?
No, I've tried everything.
Okay.
But I've settled on a commercial breed. A lot of people turn their nose up at that, but they're hardy, don't get sunburned, don't mind snow. They are a high meat yield, which is what I'm after, 70 to 74%. They don't put too much fat on. And it's good. It works with Duroc, pair of trained middle white cross, which is quite a hardy breed. And they're little bit sort of stressy when they're younger. That's the peer train, but pretty much it was a hobby that's now turned to a little bit of a business.
So if you wanted, I saw this amazing pig on Facebook, Mangalitsa pig.
Oh, I had one of them.
Yeah, did you?
Called Ernie. He was a little bastard. He was. He was trying to chew the fence to get to the other ones.
Really?
He was really aggressive.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so he didn't last long.
They seem to have a really high fat to meat ratio.
If you're not careful, you overfeed them.
Well, I like that. So
yeah, but fair enough.
Yeah.
But he was really aggressive, and I had to get rid of him. But he didn't last long. But
of course he didn't last long. I'm not being funny, but
he was bacon pretty quick.
Yeah, I was going to say like he was the first. So how many up to now? Like 18 years, 19 years on This Morning?
19 years on This Morning. I think it's my 19th year. I just signed a new contract, so that takes me through to a year December.
What's been the learning curve there?
I don't know still. I've never ever taken things seriously.
Yeah.
You know, I've always wanted the big job. I always wanted to have like my own series. Never had it. I've had it on This Morning, but never prime time. I've always wanted to be a 2 Michelin star chef. Never got 2, only got 1. And so I realised very quickly that I'm just very lucky in what I've got. And when I just say, it's This Morning, but I've done that a long time now. I'm the resident chef, have been for years. They give me some fantastic opportunities. Like this year alone, I've been to Mexico, Key West, Miami, Uganda, Italy, just in 1 year. So,
you never know because we text each other all the time, and you never really.
It can be at the drop of a hat.
Yeah.
Like last week, I need to go to Italy, Phil. Go to Dolomites. Okay, go on then.
Were you going to go Uganda as well?
Yeah, I've done that.
You've done that.
And we're going to go back.
Oh, you're going back.
There's no budget this year. We're going to go back and build the the kitchen and the toilet block for the first school that we went to.
Wow.
So that's it's morphed into something a bit more than just cooking.
Is it hard? Would you say
love it?
No, you love it.
No.
So.
I'll tell you why, Estelle. What's harder is having to do a series where you retake.
Yeah.
Oh, let's set the camera up. Let's do it. No, I've got a 5-minute slot. That's it. Go home. Go bad, wrong, indifferent. You go home.
Yeah, and you were saying because there were some people that don't like doing live, and there's some people that don't like doing series.
Yeah, Rick Stein, I love him to bits, but he hates doing live. We did I was at the Pasto Food Festival 2 weeks ago, and even then on Twitter he put, I get really nervous doing live. Whereas live to me, what you got to forget, Stel, is when they put that camera on you, everyone changes, and they do. They just don't.
I clamp up when I see a camera in front of me.
Everyone does. But what I say to people is, what you got to remember is behind that there's a million people watching.
Yeah, so talk to them.
That's 10 Wembleys full, and you're talking to them.
Wow.
And so you just forget that, and I hide behind the food. I always do.
Yeah,
I'm just it's irrelevant. Me.
Well,
really.
I watch every now and then, but I work for a living, so I can't stay home at that sort of time. But
careful,
that's my excuse.
Yeah.
So, but you do seem like a natural. But you've been doing it a long time now, haven't you?
Yeah, I have, and I think I know my stuff inside out. I don't cook anything I've never cooked before.
You don't wing it?
No, and I'll never cook blind. You'll never see me cook a recipe I've done.
We'll move on to that. But as long as I've known you, you're not a wingy type guy. You literally put some effort in, like to what you do.
Yeah, and it's interesting. People ask me about restaurants now. Would I go back and do it again? I either do it or I don't. There's no halfway with me. And if I do, I give it 100%. That's what everyone's doing. Pig farming, cutting fields, painting, I don't know, washing up, cleaning this cooker. I either do it or I don't. And
you don't do things by half, basically.
No. It's a waste of time.
So of all the countries you've been to, what's your favourite?
I like them all still for their own different reasons. Uganda was fantastic because we went to help orphanages. I travelled north to south of Vietnam to see what they do with rice, the way they cook their food. Cooked on the Barrier Reef. I've been riding elephants in India.
Because you travel a lot for your website as well, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, because you do blogging for that.
Yeah, I try to, because I just tend to forget what it's about, and people need to know. Love to know about food.
Yeah.
Love seeing pictures. We went to Brazil. We went to Peru. I've been all over the Caribbean. I went to Florida Keys a couple of weeks ago. We're doing a competition, but I cook with a guy who's got a very clever idea now, where the fish that you eat in his restaurant is touched three humans. That's all. Wow. One that catches it, one that cooks it, and you're eating it. That sort of philosophy. So food's changed, but I love. Well, I found also going to Malaya, for instance, we got the Orient Express from Bangkok down to Singapore, stopped at Georgetown where Keith Floyd had cooked, and we went to the same market that Floyd cooked in, and I cooked in the same place pretty much. And I knew nothing about Malay food. I knew nothing about Peruvian food. I knew nothing about Brazilian food. And it was wherever I go, I realise, oh my God, I know nothing. So when I see chefs saying, oh, I'm really good, no. Even now, I still believe I'm scratching the surface, and I'll never give up on that. Never.
I think someone always said to me, like, when you think you know it all, get out, do something else.
What's that great saying that McDonald's? What's his name?
Ray Kroc.
Ray Kroc. Yeah, in his book he says, "When you're green, you grow. When you ripe, you rot.
Yeah.
And I thought, what a great saying.
It's so true, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
He had some great sayings.
Yeah, he did. And pretty much Warren Buffett says the same thing, doesn't he? You know, he's very black and white.
Yeah, very. Yeah, he won't. Yeah, they don't suffer fools gladly, do they? So.
No, nor do I.
Yeah.
Nor do you still.
So we just touched on restaurants a little bit, and you've been out of the restaurant game, but you go to a lot of restaurants.
Yeah, I do.
In the news a lot at the moment is a lot about restaurants closing, and and I know in our industry some people are finding it pretty tough. What do you think? What was your take on the restaurant industry suffering? Would you say, like?
I think it's inevitable. I think whatever business you've got, it's inevitable that you will have restaurants and businesses, catering businesses, which will go by the way. That's just the way it is.
Just natural,
natural wastage. However, the ingredients cost, the staff labour costs, the rates, the high staff turnover. There's so much more competition now than there ever was before. And even if you're a global phenomenon, even like Jamie Oliver, for instance, he's shutting restaurants.
Yeah.
Now, as a global phenomenon, if you're shutting restaurants, my goodness, what's the person with one restaurant going to do? I think it's about giving people what they want. The days are gone where you can say, my restaurant's this, I'm charging that, that's the way it is. That's a dinosaur cookery, I'm afraid. That's all gone. You need to give people what they want. And you need to do it at the right price. And another big thing is, I think a lot of restaurants fail is, and somebody once said to me, and I can't think who it was, you need to cook to the lowest common denominator in the kitchen.
Okay.
So pretty much in a chef structure now, head chef, sous chef, and lots of commies. The days gone we had a chef de partie, demi chef de partie, senior chef de partie, junior sous chef, unless you're in a big hotel. And you get independents where head chef and pretty much nobody else. When that other guy, those two top guys aren't there, that may be through illness or days off or holiday, kitchen can't cope. And that's where it all falls apart. So you need to cook to the lowest common denominator.
I think, and you've got a lot of restaurants, a lot of chefs saying they can't recruit other chefs.
They can't. Even Rick Stein said to me, God, even we're struggling. And that's because also wages have gone up. And Sat Baines, love him to bits, actually was one of the first chefs to introduce a 4-day week. Okay, you work a 12, 14-hour day or 16-hour day, but you only do 4 days. When you're offering that sort of thing, 4 on, 3 off...
At least you're guaranteed to get a day off,
Correct, and they get Christmas off, New Year's off, that sort of thing. When I was young chef, we just did it. We didn't even complain. Just
I pretty much imagine that he rides his staff hard because... almost like they know they're getting 2 days off anyway. So, while you're here, work really hard. Like, I know a friend of mine who's got a restaurant in Bath, and it's a really funny story. A friend of mine told me one of the lads that was working there kept yawning. Yeah. And he goes, oh, what's wrong? Oh, I'm just really tired. He goes, all right, once, twice, 3 times. He just goes, look, get your coat and leave. Like, while you're here, you're working hard. Like, and I think that's the thing, like, maybe people just aren't prepared to work that hard these days.
They're not. It's interesting. My son, who's now 25, but he was 18, 19, can I give you hand the pigs? Earn some pocket money. I said, of course you can, come down. We'll put posts in. There's always something to do. So we whacked in about 20 posts by hand, peel a bar the hole, whack them in, put the fence up. And he started yawning. So I saw him do one. I said, every time I see you yawn, I'm going to fine you a pound. I'm going to fine you a pound. Oh, that's terrible. I said, no, because we're here to work. Yeah. All right. So he started doing that, trying to yawn that way. So anyway, we come back to the cafe up the road. We had breakfast for an hour, went back. We did 5 hours. Okay, I fined him £3 because he had 3 yawns. And I took the £5.50 at the time off his wage. He said, I did 5 hours. I said, no, I didn't. You did 4 hours. We had an hour break. I'm not paying you to sit and have breakfast. Oh. So there is that.
I think if you look at people that enter the chefing industry these days, or to be chefs, I think they probably think, oh, I'll work a couple of years and I'll land it lucky like Jamie Oliver, for argument's sake.
Good luck with that one.
Yeah.
But still, the other thing to say is, in this life, and I've always believed it, and I've never been ripped off, you have to put yourself out. Now, I'll give an example. We put coffee machines in all our businesses over the years. Big, fantastic, all singing, all dancing, fantastic. I realised I'd never done a course. I don't know make cappuccino. I don't make an espresso. I don't know what a cortado was. I don't know what the minimum extraction should be. So I booked myself on a coffee course in London because I wanted to learn. Yeah. And partially, that's just me possibly, but partially you've got to give something. Another great saying of mine is life's a bank account. You only take out what you put in. And it's true. And you've got to put yourself out. If I want to learn something now, I want to learn welding. That's my next thing. I'm going to teach myself to weld. I went to see my mate. I'll go do 2 days welding with him. I'm not going to get paid, but I'll learn. There's that learning has gone. I need to be paid or else. Okay, mate. Well, do you know what?
I don't know if he got paid or not, but if you look at someone like Heston Blumenthal, like he worked for a lot of chefs and he wasn't a chef.
No.
He
was
did
a debt collector.
Yeah, and windows and stuff, wasn't he? He did everything. So, and I don't know if he got paid. I have no idea, but I'm guessing that he was willing to put in before he got out. Like,
Yes.
So,
And there's a few chefs around that have done that, but there's this, and I can understand why people get ripped off and people get, come and do it today, we're not paying you. Of course, that's stupid.
Yeah.
But if you want to learn something, I would go and do it for nothing.
Yeah.
I would go and learn because I worked on my first job in the Lake District. I didn't know much of bakery, so I went down to the local baker. I said, "Can I come work with you?" He said, "Of course you can." For a month, I did one of my days off, 3 o'clock in the morning. You can start late food, you can start at 3. And I learned baking. Didn't get paid. With a cup of tea and a bacon sandwich. But I even now remember, I can vividly remember my head making the rolls, cutting them up. And I wanted to learn baking. If I want to go and learn, even now, I'll go and learn it. I don't want to get paid for it.
No, you just want to learn it.
I want to know why.
Well, the payment is the learning almost, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
But to be honest with you, a lot of people get ripped off, and I understand that. But that enthusiasm.
Again, as long as you're selective with where you end up throwing that offer out.
Yeah.
So, for example, you're not just going to walk into a side street. You don't know who they are.
No.
You're going to think, well, I want to learn butchery. Now, let me see if this is an established butcher.
Yeah.
How long?
I'll go down and say, can I come watch you? They go, okay, come in.
They're not going to say no. They want a hand for free as well sometimes,
Of course they
don't
are.
they?
But you've got to put yourself
got to
out
put it
still.
in. Yeah, exactly.
You have to put yourself out. And to me, there's a little bit too much of, well, I'm not getting paid, I'm not doing it. Well, that's fine. Do you know what? In life, you'll never get on.
Without sounding old, maybe that's a generational thing like today, or...
Possibly.
Yeah.
And people do get ripped off, of course they do. But it's about learning, it's about knowledge. And I'm like a sponge, I think on my website there's a bit where I interview, I don't know if you've seen it on the blog, have you seen it? My career path.
Yeah.
There's a chef on there called Brian Gilliam, I think he's very ill at the moment. He said he always wanted to know why. He always asked the question why. And that's what I did. I want to know why it does.
Yeah.
Why does that change? Why does it work? Gluten-free is an example.
Yeah. Well, I think you should never stamp out curiosity.
No.
At any age, at any age, as you know, I've got a 4-year-old, and I love the fact that it's curious. I love it. And I think people get annoyed with me.
You went to get to 15, mate.
Yeah, I'm 34 and I'm still curious. I'm like you. I'm always asking why.
You have to know why.
Yeah.
Why? If you don't know, my father once said to me, and it's really great. It's a bit old, crusty now, but he'd say, "Boy, you need to learn something new every day," and it's true.
Yeah.
Just one thing.
Well, you've got a wife like me. We learn things every day.
No, we're told.
We get told.
We're told things every day.
Yeah. So how did you end up, getting into farming? What made you want to do that?
Well, I came out of my job at the castle, and it was all documented in the papers, and I had a court case, which is very sad, and I had to sue him, and it was not very nice. And I took my daughter to school. As a young boy, I worked on a pig farm part-time. So I loved that element. And they all had names, and all the pens had names. So the first one was called Kathmandu. One of my pens I call Kathmandu now because it's furthest away. And I loved it. And I thought one day I'll do that again. Anyway, came back, dropped my daughter off at play school, my older daughter. Came back. There was a guy on the side of the road hammering a sign in on the trees for sale. So I stopped, reversed back. He went, "Do you know what? You're the third person to stop me. I haven't put the sign up yet." He said, "They're all stuck up cows." I said, "No." I said, "I'll have it." He went, "All right." And he pulled the sign out. He said, "I'll show you around." He showed me around. I loved it. I fell in love with it. 23-acre plot. It's beautiful. And I said, "Why are you selling it?" He said, "Do you know what? My wife just left me. I had 2 shops, one in Newbury, one in Slough. I've been held up at gunpoint 3 times. Do you know what? I've had enough of it. I'm going to go live somewhere else."
Wow.
I never saw him again. We shook hands, never saw him again. Bought the land, and I looked after it for a bit, and I thought, I'm going to put some pigs in. I'd always wanted pigs. At the time, I'd come back from making a film with the Iberico pig people in southern Spain. Miguel, the head PR man, said to me, "See, you can't do this in the UK, Phil." I went, "No, you can't." Got on the plane and thought, "Oh, why can't we do it?
Can't I?
Got pigs. Okay, I can't do acorns, but I can get a pretty good size, get the right breed." So I bought 2 pigs, completely ripped off. Put 2 pigs in there, fed them, slaughtered them, a bit too fatty, then tried different ones, different breeds. And then over the past sort of 10, 11 years, I'm up to 80, and now we produce a very good product. I've learned a hell of a lot. We just air-dried ham, salamis. Some of my pigs go up to half a tonne each.
I find pork in the UK, it's either really, really good or really, really poor. There doesn't seem to be any middle ground with it.
So I wouldn't call it poor, Stel. I call it tasteless.
Yeah, tasteless. Yeah,
because a lot of it's just indoors. A lot of people
Yeah.
don't go outdoors anymore. We rear up to 250 kilos a pig. So they're big pigs. But the flavour, we worked on diets. I worked on numerous diets, getting flavour right, fat right. Colour of meat. So when you make salamis are the right colour with my Butcher Simon body. And we've really progressed over the years, and we do a very, very good product.
Wow.
But it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And do you know what, Still? I don't take 1 penny from it. So there's an example of what I said earlier. I don't do it for that. I do it for the lifestyle.
Yeah.
I plough everything we get back into the business. And we buy more pigs. I'd sooner buy new troughs.
Yeah.
And I love it. And I get as much enjoyment from that, even when it's raining, snowing, my pigs are dying from fits or pneumonia or whatever. I still enjoy that more now than I think I ever did cooking.
Maybe it's that honest job that your brother told you about.
Oh, yeah. But only living from
It keeps you healthy, though, doesn't it, I suppose?
Yeah.
Fresh air and...
God, people say, do you go to gym? I'm like, gym? So I'm up at 5. I lift 100 kilos of pig food a day. I feed pigs. I do all sorts. I don't go to the gym. No chance.
Yeah, no time or inclination. Yeah. So, as a disclaimer, if anybody listening to this doesn't know that we do work together, yeah, just in case, like, you know, you never know, like, there might be someone, like, you know, so I just got to be honest.
We do still. We have that for years.
So, obviously, we create and manufacture the Phil Vickery products together.
Yeah.
And so one thing I wanted to sort of put straight, one of the questions I get all the time is, well, I think when people say it's more of a statement, but, I bet he just puts his name on a box. Like, you know, and there is other brands that maybe are like that. But that's
most of them.
You're not like that at all.
No,
like, you know, like from early on, like when we presented some samples, you were like, you got to change this, you got to add this, you got to add that. Yeah. Get rid of all the crap. Can't have no crap in there.
Yeah. It started years ago still. I had a Christmas puddings company. I couldn't afford... We had a really bad harvest one year. And we couldn't use organic flour, we used rice flour. And my business partner at the time said to me, Phil, make them gluten-free. I'm like, what does that mean? This is 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, you know... He said we'd do a factory trial. Didn't, couldn't tell the difference. I remember being at the Islington Food Fair and I was giving out samples. And a lot of people walked past me and said, I can't do it, I'm gluten-free. I said, these are, don't believe you. This is 20 years ago still. Don't believe you. Show me the packet. And at the time I had the logo for coeliac UK. I'll have 40. No, I'll have 60. Hang on, my mate's on the phone. Actually.
How big were these things? Like,
they were
like
500 grams.
Proper size. Like.
Yep, and we did little ones as well. We did 55 grand one Christmas. We sold.
Yeah.
So it was amazing. And that's before gluten-free became in vogue, and that's something which upsets me. And so I went back to coeliac UK and said, look, I can't afford your licence again, but can I have the licence? And they said, yeah, of course you can. In return, would you come and give a speech at the House of Commons? I said, well, I don't know nothing about it. And they said, well, you obviously do because you're doing what you're doing. So I researched it, and I did a bit more research, and I started playing around. I went to my speech at the House of Commons, came back, went to the House of Lords, came back, and then I got interested and I started researching it. And then I went to my publisher about a year later. I spent about a year on it. And I said to her, Kyle, I want to write a book on gluten-free. She went, why? I said, because I want to? No. I said, oh, don't be like that, Kyle. No, I'm not interested. I said, oh, Kyle, this is Friday. She went, no, we've got to sell books, Phil. There's no point. I said, look, please... Don't say no, just think about it. And she went, okay. So she said, I'm not going to change my mind. I said, I know you're not. I'll ring you Monday. She never called me. I phoned her about 4 o'clock. Can I make... Carlos, Phil? And she went, I said, just don't say a word. Can we just please give it a whirl, please? I'll never forget it. She went, okay, we'll give it a whirl. That book has now sold over 300,000 copies.
Wow.
I think it's 12 languages, 14 countries, and still sells. Still sell the most successful gluten-free book ever written. And so, testament to that, I thought there's something here. So then I heavily researched it then. I heavily went into it with Bea Harling, who's my scientist. We worked together. She was head of Nestle for years, and we started a small company together, and we work on textures and control. And so we're way down the path now of gluten-free products.
When I met you first, obviously, I thought, oh, well, he's on the ball. And then I thought...
Not really, still. No. Just research,
well,
you know?
But then when I met Bea, I thought, like... You know,
she's scary.
Yeah, like, you know, she questioned absolutely everything. Like, you know, show me the paperwork, show me this, show me that, show me this, show me that. You know, and even today, like, you know, we send her an email and it's like, You don't get a short email off BDA. There's no such thing.
Absolutely.
Unless it's something like when are we meeting,
Yeah.
or but like generally it's like it's a document 3-4 pages long. Like,
because still you have to be squeaky, as you well know in this business, you have to be squeaky clean. And she's over every bit of research coming out, every new bit of research is coming out. She will question old research. She will find
I remember
research
when
notes.
we were about to launch our gluten-free batter together, Drembo, and she was like, she sits me down and she's like,
She's very quiet at the start.
She's like, let's look at this ingredient. How safe is it? And I was like, really safe. And that's me all over it. Yeah, really safe.
Yeah.
She's like, no, show me. Like, and I was like, I have to get my computer out. And I do sort of like, I can talk things through, but she's like, no, you got to show me everything. But you're right, you've got to be squeaky clean in this game.
And not much gets past her.
Oh, no, not at all. When we put the ingredients in front of her, and she's like, no, that's fine, they're clean. Like, there's no, you can't pass something off to her.
No, and also you can send her samples, and she will say to you, I've got my notes here from the last time, and she's...
Yes, if I'm usually in the wrong anyway, to be fair. But yeah, she's very quick to say, what are these? And I'm like, oh,
that wasn't the same as last time.
Yeah, exactly. She'll know.
She doesn't miss the thing, and I'm very lucky to have her.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, I think we all are, really. We are ever so grateful to be, because without her, I'd be sloppy, very sloppy. I think.
Well, she keeps us on our toes, put it that way.
Definitely. And so now obviously you have a lot more of a connection with fish and chips, because like we were saying, you did the bakery mixes, and now we've got batters and curries and gravies, and we always play with different things. So here's a question I want to ask you, because you're not a fish and chip guy really, but what makes great fish and chips for you?
I used to cook them a lot when we had the restaurant. We had a brasserie, and I wanted crisp, clear flavour. I wanted crispy batter. I wanted consistently crispy batter, not hit and miss. I wanted chips that were nice, cooked properly, cut properly. I didn't use too much dripping. I felt it overpowered a bit too much flavour. So I had that background anyway. And to be honest with you, from doing the cake mixes and everything else, biscuit mixes, it seemed like a natural progression to move on, because I get people emailing saying, I can't get fish and chips, Phil. A lot of chip shops now do fantastic gluten-free battered days, and they clear down and what have you. So that's very, very good. And it was just a natural progression for me, but I tasted so many that were rubbish or awful that I just thought, no, we got to be able to do this better.
I think years ago, like 20 years ago, I remember I was at my cousin's shop, so well before I even started batter company Sarah's.
You're still at school still?
Well, yeah, I just got my driver's license, to be fair. So, like, probably 2001, 2002. Yeah. And I remember, like, they'd bring in the prescription. Was it some gluten-free flour or something? And I was like, what's that? And he goes, my cousin was just like, I don't know, I just throw it in with a pan with everything else. He goes, I don't know what it is. He goes, they just bring it to me and say, can you make batter out of it?
Did they really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know
nobody knew, like you said earlier, nobody knew what it was, except for people that suffered from it, So I do think it's one of those things that has become a trend almost, like, I do think.
Yeah, I think a trend is... We have to be very careful when we say that, because...
for some people...
Me and you understand that, but a lot of people still call it a fad or a trend, and it's a very serious disease. And a very famous chef, oh my goodness, a couple of years ago, actually back at the Telegraph, and I remember reading it on Saturday morning, it said, no one in my family is gluten-free or celiac, but I'm a sucker for a fad. My goodness. And I got uproar about that, and that's that sort of moronic...
Well, you didn't say it though.
Moronic statement that really winds me up, because it just shows a complete ignorance.
And I think with any sort of... I think you do see a lot of thick people, and I'm going to say that, where they have no intolerance, they have no problem whatsoever. And, you see chefs talk about it, and they're like, they'll go to the restaurant and they're like, just so you know, I'm a celiac, so I can't have X, Y, Z. And then they order pudding, and they have, I don't know, something with loads of wheat in it, bread or pudding. And they're like, what?
Well, my brother doctor is very interesting. He would say to me, years ago now, he'd say, do you know what, people self-diagnose. He said they will come to me, they'll type in the Google, I don't know, distended bowel or bloatedness, and it came out with this stuff, and then they believe they've got cancer of the stomach or colon cancer or various things. Go to him and say, look, I've got this.
They go to the bottom of the list, the most severe thing.
Of course they do. And that's, you've got to be very careful. And what I said about celiacs is, to be registered as a coeliac or to have celiac disease, you have to go to some pretty tough stuff to find out if you are. So you have to poison yourself for up to 6 weeks. You have to have a blood test. You have a gut sample, and then then eventually they'll diagnose you. It's not just a fad.
You've just glossed over one part of that, which is the gut sample, and how they take that is very invasive.
And that's what I wasn't going to say too much. But until you've done all that, then you either are or you're not celiac. It's very simple. I don't think it's helpful when you have people like Djokovic, for instance, saying a couple of years ago, I'm doing gluten-free diet now.
That's why I'm so good,
Yeah, and that may be for him. There may be nothing wrong with that. And there may be psychosomatic, it could be all sorts of things. And that's his opinion and the way he wants to run his life. However, you've got to be very careful when you make statements like that, because other people that follow you will think, I'll go and do that now, then it'll be fine.
Well, you know just as well as me, we go to the supermarkets a lot, and we look at these gluten-free products, and some of them are worse than the wheat-based products in terms of the amount of sugar and fat in them. And
I always look at the back. I always say to people, look at the back, look at the declaration on the back of ingredients, and say, do you really want to put that on your body? And that's why, Stell, when you develop stuff together, we're very careful. We're very careful what we put in, because and B is on it like she's all over it, and we will not put anything in that isn't correct or that we don't think is correct.
Well, we're going to jump back onto fish and chips, because I think I want to talk about fads, a bit later on. So that's what makes the best fish and chips for you: clean, crisp flavour.
I don't like
anything overpowering.
No,
soft batter is no for you.
No, I want the softest white, beautiful flesh. I don't mind frozen fish. I've got no problem with that, because some fish is fantastic frozen. Salmon as an example, cod as an example, haddock as an example. I have no problem with that. People just see it as poor man's cheap food, and they just chuck it around and just think that's it, and that annoys me. I don't like stuff cooked in old oil.
You can taste it straight away.
You can, but also I don't like stuff cooked in fresh oil. I like it half and half.
I agree.
I like it drained properly. I like the chips to be not necessarily really crisp, but as long as they're cooked and tasty. Mushy peas are an absolute must for me. I can't eat fish and chips without mushy peas, I'm afraid, or salt and vinegar. My wife hates salt and vinegar.
Really?
Yeah, but I love it. She will eat a few peas, but
I can't have fish and chips without salt and vinegar.
Oh no, I can't. Yeah. Oh my goodness, my daughter.
And I want peas and I want tartar sauce. You've had fish and chips with me anyway, so you've seen what I'm like.
And a bit of cheap bread, some butter.
Yeah, I love all that. Yeah, I love all that.
That's it for me.
See, where me and my wife differ massively, and I joke with her all the time. I say, if I knew this before, I wouldn't have married her. But she likes her
bold statement, Stell. That is. That's a bold one, mate.
She's going to listen to this. Yeah, I always make fun of her anyway. But she likes her fish and chips wrapped up the traditional way, and I like mine. Well, I prefer mine always on a plate, but if I'm travelling, in a box.
Yeah. I like to have them open.
Yeah.
I don't like it steamed too
much. You like
much.
them as fast as possible.
Yeah,
so you're in my camp, really.
Yeah.
Whereas she's a brummie and she likes it all wrapped up and sweaty, and I'm like,
that's two statements there, Stell.
It's just too much for me. So
let's move on from that one.
Yeah, exactly. So, and obviously next year you're going to be hosting the Fish and Chip Awards.
I am indeed.
Fish and Chip Awards. Yeah.
They asked me a couple of years ago, and I couldn't make it. Something happened. I can't remember now. But for the past, I think 3 years, might be 4. The winners always come on this morning and cook the next day. So we had the Miller boys.
And if you can cast your mind back long enough, they would have come on Ready Steady Cook as well.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. It may not have been when I was there.
No, okay. Yeah.
But they always come on now, and it's good to see them. And they approached me and said, would I give out the awards? I said, I'd love to, because of obviously what we do together. And I've certainly looked at the industry a lot more than I've ever done because of our association. And so, it was a natural progression for me. And I will bang the gluten-free drum, and I will say, come on, guys, you can do a bit more. And obviously, I do a little bit of a speech at the start. I might give a few people a bit of a kick in, but, it would be a bit of fun.
And then, where is your favourite fish and chip shops? Because I'm sure there's a few.
Yeah, around here, I love Churchill's. I have to say, they opened about a year ago, might be a bit more than that. Online, fantastic. Book it online.
So I think in our industry, they're a very professional outfit.
Oh, they're super efficient. You just see the way they are. They're very sustainable fish, which I liked. They're immaculately clean. What I love is you book online and then you turn up and they cook it for you.
Oh, wow.
So, it's fabulous. I've had 4 or 5 from there. Very, very good. And actually, my daughter's trying to get a job at the moment, which is good. Now, that's here. If I'm in, obviously, I've got Sleaford, Elite. I love Elite. I love what they've done. They've move fish and chips in a different league. I mean, the restaurant is amazing. It's like going to one Michelin star restaurant.
Yeah.
It's fabulous. I had some fantastic steak there last year. Obviously, if I go to Cornwall, we've got Rick Stein, obviously, which is very good, but I tend to steer clear of them and go out a bit further. I'm trying to think where else I've been recently.
But we mostly have our business meetings at Chez Fred as well, don't we? So.
Chez Fred, of course, yeah. That's very remiss of me to forget that. I had a fantastic piece of steak there last time.
I like his hake.
Yeah, and he's on it. He's absolutely on it. You know, he what I love about Chez Fred is everything's analysed from the tartar sauce to the puddings to the mushy peas to the napkins. Everything is the foot flow of people coming through the business, the way they're coming out. I mean, everything is very, very slick, and the cooking's spot on.
Since I've followed you on Twitter, it's been a while now. What's with the whole coffee thing?
Oh, that started as a bit of a joke, I have to say. It was I was going to my Costa Coffee. And there'd be like all sorts of people turn up. So I started taking pictures of people. So there was these blokes that turn up on a weekend with their lycra, full lycra, all their beer bellies, and they would sit like for like 2 hours. And I think what they must do is they must go, get out for a ride, love. See you later.
Right to the coffee shop.
And go to the coffee shop. So I started taking pictures. That got a bit of fun. And then I started taking pictures of Looky Likey. So there's one, I don't know if you saw the one that the Queen.
Yeah.
The Queen comes in my Costa. And then there was Francis Rossi from Picking His Nose from Status Quo. They just became a bit of a laugh.
Yeah.
Then I started doing things like, I'm up at Who's Up in the Morning, coffee club, and it just sort of rolled into this big thing. Anyway, on the back of that, Costa then, it was all purely by chance, asked me to go and judge the Bristol of the Year Championships, World Bristol of the Year, which I've done for 3 or 4 years. Just a bit of fun. They don't pay me to do it, to tweet and stuff. It's just a bit of a laugh, really. And it gets a big following. And
I can't go anywhere with you for coffees, you know. Because you can't have a conversation for like longer than 2 seconds. Someone knocks on your shoulder and you're like... Remember once I went for a coffee once, didn't we? Someone actually sat next to us in the chair. And they were like, so what are you two doing here? I'm like...
oh, God.
Yeah, you know, take a seat, have a cake. Like, you know, but no, like...
It was a joke still.
No.
It's totally a bit of fun.
But yeah, you're a public figure, so it is always going to be difficult. Isn't it?
I don't see it that way though. I just see it as a bit of a laugh. And you tend to forget.
You notoriously hate the word celebrity, don't you? You hate
I'm
it,
not a celebrity, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
I'm a cook.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not. Just because I cook on telly doesn't make you a celebrity. It just makes. So I prefer the names well known.
Or maybe like if I was going to say that if you was going to try to tell someone that you're on TV and you cook, it'd be like TV cook.
TV. Yeah, I'm a cook that does telly.
Yeah.
Rather than a television chef.
Celebrity is very different. Isn't
it?
And
a celebrity television chef is someone like Ainsley Harriott or Gino or someone like that who don't have any real formal background. I think Ainsley has a little bit, but no, I've never gone that route. It's never been me. I've always been a chef first, and telly was always second.
Yeah.
But then, as I've got older, that's sort of turned around a bit now. I do a lot of telly, obviously, and a bit.
Well, that's really interesting though, because I like the fact that you may not. Well, no, you still cook because you know, and you definitely cook to the lowest common denominator now because it's even more so now because you know it must be pretty like when you put recipes together for people that are cooking at home, you're assuming a lot of things. You're assuming they've got all the equipment, you know, and so is it difficult putting recipes together for that?
It can be, and you know, I cook a lot more what I call family food. So if I use a can of beans, these are all the beans, you know, or I don't use ingredients people can't get. If I can't buy it in the supermarket, I'm not going to do a recipe. But occasionally I'll step out of that. But it can backfire on you. Like I did a student food on this morning a few weeks ago, and I did 49p, 69p and £1. It was like main course for a student.
Wow, okay.
And we did baked beans on toast, which my wife had it for lunch today, actually. It's baked beans, honey, dried chili flakes and chopped coriander, a little bit of butter. Warm it, put it on toast, try it still. It's really fantastic. Anyway, it all went down well. Of course, Gogglebox next week. I got an absolute kick in on Gogglebox. He's not a real cook. He can't cook. Baked beans, call yourself a chef, blah, blah, blah. And it was fantastic publicity. However, it was all taken slightly out of context.
Yeah, you see, I can't watch that. The wife watches it. And
a load of people on Twitter getting
I
kicking.
I think they should bring out a Gogglebox for Gogglebox because I sit there making fun of those people.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. So I'd be right there.
Yeah, when it first started, I liked it because it was actually sort of genuine people.
Feels a little bit contrived.
Yeah, and they're a bit celebrity now, some of these people, which is slightly worrying. But I'm old enough now to think that, you know, this is... Cooking's just cooking. It's not... I always put on Twitter, it's not rocket science. But there is a very serious angle to it, and whether it's fish and chip batter, whether it's chocolate log, which I did a couple of weeks ago, baked beans on toast. There's always a very serious theme to it.
And you do get a lot of shares, and you get a lot of shares. You give a lot of you don't retweet everybody, but you try to give encouragement. You don't mock people for trying something.
No. And also, it's about people saying to me, for instance, a lot of stuff I cook on This Morning, for the next week, 10 days, people send me pictures. I've done it, Phil. I've done it. Like the chocolate log is an example of that. And next Friday, which is 22nd, is it?
Mm-hmm. That's 22nd this week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This Friday, sorry.
Yeah, this Friday.
I'm doing turkey. I do my turkey method on This Morning. That is the biggest day of my whole website year. I get thousands of people looking at the video. We do turkey my way, it's Phil Vickery's way. I get stopped more about that turkey recipe than anything else I've ever cooked.
Really? I'll have to give you my recipe. I think you might top yours.
You reckon? Well,
I'm not just being cocky. I'm just being cocky.
I get people stopping me in Australia, America. Oh, they love your turkey recipe, Phil.
I think the biggest tip I give somebody, and it got given to me, is that just buy smaller birds. They're nicer for it, rather than having a big fat bird. And a friend of mine said to me, if you need, a really big one, get 2 smaller ones.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And also, still, I cook mine in as part steam it, part roast it. 2 hours. 12-pound bird, 10 o'clock raw, 1 o'clock eating lunch. Dry.
They don't take as long as what you think either, do they?
That'll steam in 1 hour 40 minutes, and I brown it for half an hour and let it rest for an hour. It's perfect. So I've always done it. I've done it for 40 years. I get 1,500, 2,000 people on the website following the recipe.
Wow!
On Christmas Day, I get. Well, you'll see if you have a look from Christmas Day right through till just before New Year.
And just stuff yours or not?
Oh, always.
Always stuff?
Always stuff.
Really?
And when I was a young apprentice, we used to stuff it, two stuffings, one in the neck, one in the cavity, and they're always different. So one was a herb-based one was a fruit-based one.
Oh, really?
And this year I'm stuffing mine with Christmas cake stuffing.
Wow. Because a lot of people don't tend to stuff no more.
Do you know why? Because one of the supermarkets, who should be nameless, about 10 years ago said, you can't do it anymore, it's just, you're going to get food poisoning, and it put so many people off. I was really angry.
But I think, is that probably because that people don't follow the rules? A big turkey needs time to acclimatise to the room temperature. And
I think it's a bit of that still, but it's a bit of the fact that a lot of people only cook it once a year, so there's no practice.
Okay, no practice.
Sometimes at Easter, and so my way is fail-safe, honestly.
The really frustrating thing in our family, we always say after we eat it at Christmas, we should do it more often, and we never do.
And they're expensive still.
Yeah, of course, yeah. But you feed a lot of people out of it, though, don't you? I suppose.
Yeah, but you say that 50 quid for a turkey, isn't it? 40, 50 pounds. Okay, people say it's a lot of money. It is, but that'll feed 10 people. Still 5 a go, isn't it? And then you do get the way I do it. You get lovely gravy, and you get all the stuff.
I'm obsessed with the gravy. I'm very technical when it comes to gravy.
Oh, yeah.
You can imagine.
Quite technical on that, anyway. Still,
sorry, I am. Yeah, there's a science behind everything, isn't there? And everyone's just like, "What?" I'm like,
exactly.
No. But yeah. But every year I sort of scour some websites just to refresh my memory because we don't cook it all year.
You need to record This Morning on Friday.
Yeah.
Or get your wife to, because you're out.
I was going to say.
But record it and watch it still. Honestly, watch it and you'll see. You'll see the steps. It's the juiciest thing you'll ever eat.
We're talking of sous vide earlier. My friend, he buys
Does he sous vide this?
He sous vides his crown for a stupid amount of hours.
That's okay.
And then he'll just flash it off with lots of butter and baste it loads.
Do you know what? You could argue, and I would argue, that's probably 50% right in my book, that you're doing it because it is very dry. And if that's the case, that's fine. But it's not roasting it. You're poaching it.
Yeah, it's true. And do you like the brown meat?
Yes. But what I will do this year, I'm going to bone our bird. I'm going to bone the breast out, and I shall wrap those in my own bacon. And then I shall bone the legs out, take all the sinews out, and then tie them up in 2 little tiny parcels and roast them separately. That's what I will. And then I can make this stock the day before. Yeah.
Wow. Fantastic. So, we touched on it a little bit earlier when we were talking about coeliacs and everything. And just to make it really clear, we're not saying that a lot of people are faddy, but some people will jump onto the bandwagons and disrespect the real people that suffer from, let's say, coeliacs or an allergy, let's say. And at the moment, I think there's a lot of people jumping onto the vegan movement.
There is.
Yeah. And obviously some for good reason.
Yep. I don't have a problem with that. This morning wanted me to do a go head-to-head with a vegan activist. I think that's the word they used, not mine. And I was quite happy to go and talk about it because I actually quite like vegan food. And I don't.
You like all food?
Yeah, it's fine. I don't really want to be ripped to pieces because I believe that I want a different diet, which slightly annoys me. But then again, you could argue that everyone's allowed an opinion, and they are.
I think everyone's allowed an opinion, but when you start seeing that, butcher shops are being spray painted,
that's completely wrong.
That's where your free speech went a bit too far.
Yeah, and that is also a criminal offence.
Oh, of course,
you can't. There's all right having an argument and a discussion, which is very healthy, but when it goes beyond that, and then that becomes, what was it that someone termed? Was it a meat racist? I think, or something. That was the term. Ridiculous. We're all here. I don't particularly want to eat a vegan diet. Well, I don't want to actually, because I quite like a big fat juicy steak and roast chicken occasionally, and that's fine. And I think that my views, my thoughts, and my wishes should be respected as much as I respect everybody else's.
I think that we're all part of the problem, even vegans, to be honest. And I'll tell you why, because I'll go to the supermarket and you'll see vegan cheese. And it's got 60 different ingredients. About 30 of them are chemicals to hold it all together.
But still, all you got to remember is you run a food company, so that's what you would look at.
I just think
my brother would, for instance, look at that.
But I think, regardless of what your food choices are, buy the best that you can afford.
Yes.
Yeah. Because we're all part of the problem. So if you choose to buy all the crappiest of everything, whether it's vegan or non-vegan, then you're part of that problem, aren't you?
This is it. Food is not expensive, Sally. Okay, if you're in Singapore and you have a Wagyu 5-star at the best hotel, it's going to cost you £250 or $250 per course. But food's not expensive.
No.
I bought a Dover sole the other day, a big Dover sole, which is probably about 6-7 years old. I grilled it. Oh my God, it was delicious. It was £10. I said to a friend of mine, £10 for a fish? I said, mate, that's a packet of cigarettes. That's 2.5 bottles of Beck's.
You were saying earlier that your economics, you always put it down to, you always relate things to beer and fags.
It's a really good thing. When people say to me, that's really expensive, think about booze and fags. And pretty much it's cheap. So even a fillet steak at £6 is less than 1 3/4 bottles of Beck's. It's 3/4 of a packet of cigarettes. And people aren't paying that. So I think you need to have a bit of a reality check and you need to think about those things. Going back to the vegan argument, I just think everyone's allowed an opinion. However, please don't tell me how I should run my life. And I actually put a thing on Twitter the other day which got a bit of a going over for. And it was, isn't it funny how strangers think they know your life better than you know it? And it's true. I think everyone's allowed an opinion and everyone's going to eat what they want. However, don't tell me what to eat, please.
It's so true, I think, yeah. So true. Like I said, everyone can eat what they want. Just don't tell others what to do. And this activism, there's so much activism over so many things these days.
People get very angry and you could argue that that's good on them because they're very passionate about their cause, and I respect that to a certain extent. However, when it veers into breaking the law or intimidating people, then that's not.
So one question then that I was going to ask somebody else, but you're into your farming anyway, and I've not prepared you for this, so if you don't know the answer, that's fine. Broad strokes, what would happen if we didn't eat meat? What would happen to the economics of the land, the animals? You know a lot more about that than what I do. People wouldn't rear animals anymore, would they?
No, and I don't know the economics of it in great detail still. However, that's never going to happen. I mean...
No, what I'm saying is for those people that think that's the result they want, I'm guessing that a lot of those animals would face extinction because no one... Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I know it's a very broad view, but no one's going to keep cows.
I certainly think, and I certainly believe that we should eat less meat. I did a project for a hotel chain about 6-7 years ago where we looked at the amount of meat people are eating, went to the menus, and we cut down probably, apart from steaks, which are always 8 ounces, you probably get away with 7 ounces. But pretty much all the other protein, whether it's chicken, pork, veal, some of the dishes were chicken. We cut down the protein by nearly half and then built the dishes with other things. So it might have been more protein as in things like chickpeas. It might have been more carbohydrates, slightly more. So we cut down by nearly 50% of the meat protein. And okay, apart from visually seeing a slightly smaller portion, generally speaking, it went down really well.
Yeah.
So we got 175 gram a breast of chicken, for instance. You could put that down to 120, 110 even.
Wow.
You know, and you're still not to the detriment of the dish. As long as you add other things which flavours them, it works. So even fish protein we were cutting down. You know, we have, I don't know, two perhaps say a whole mackerel. We get into 1 3/4 fillets, cut into 3. Yeah. So every third fish you get another portion. So it was all about obviously cost control, but saying to people you don't need. Excuse me, you don't need to eat that anymore. That amount.
That makes complete sense. So, what would your ultimate favourite restaurant be? The ultimate. If you had one choice.
My favourite at the moment. Well, it has been.
At the moment then.
Well, no, it has been for the past certainly 15 years. Is Rick Stein's seafood.
Yeah. The original.
Yep, I've been going there, 30 odd years. Must be now. I've never had a duff meal. Not one.
Really?
Not one that I can remember. My wife had some mussels once. They were a bit salty, but to me they were fine. But I've never had a duff meal. The service has been impeccable. Place is buzzing. I go in my shorts. When the kids were little, we could play cards at the table and no one cared. It was brilliant.
So very family friendly then.
Yeah, and I think if you were to say to me, at a restaurant, I'd say, you go and look at that. They've got that absolutely spot on. And it's very relaxed. It's just cool. Just very easy.
And I'm guessing this isn't going to be an easy answer, but what would your last meal or meals be?
Gosh, I've got so many still. Depends what sort of mood I'm in.
Well, if it's your last meal, you're not going to be that bloody happy.
Was it Saddam Hussein had a Big Mac, didn't he?
Is that what he had?
Yeah, 2 Big Macs, right? Yeah. Before they hung him. Anyway, Coke and Big Mac.
Classic guy.
Of all the antithesis of things he hated.
Yes, of course, yeah.
Anyway, but mine would be, I have 3. Starter, definitely. Something like, let's go away. Let's go from dessert. Some sort of clotted cream meringue, I think I love, or trifle or something like that. I love it. Main course would be cottage pie, proper made cottage pie. Starter, I don't know what I'd have there really.
What are you more of a? What about breakfast though?
English breakfast, yeah, that's a good. Or just bacon eggs is quite nice. I wouldn't worry about caviar, foie gras, or
none of that posh malarkey.
No. Something really comforting like that, and some cabbage. So cabbage with the cottage pie. Or fish and chips. Hey, Stel, how about Phil Vickery, seriously good gluten-free fish and chips? There you go.
You could have that.
What do you reckon?
Yeah, and if it was your last meal, I'd cook it for you because I'd feel bad, to be honest.
If it's last meal, you'll be getting the royalties.
Yeah, I just feel bad for you. Do you know what I mean? If it's anybody's last meal. To be fair, if I cooked it, it probably would be your last meal.
Yeah, hang on. Here's a question for you then.
Oh, go on then.
Did you do an apprenticeship in a fish and chip shop? Did you?
I worked for my dad for 16 years.
So you're a fryer?
Originally, yeah.
I didn't know that.
And I wanted to be a chef, and I wasn't too lazy. I wasn't allowed to go. Yeah, I had to work in the family business.
Why did you say you weren't too lazy?
Well, because we were talking about that earlier.
That's pointing at me, wasn't it?
Yeah, no. Just before you say, "Oh, he's lazy," yeah. Well, a lot of people in the industry would call me lazy. So, but
no, you're not lazy still. Only miles you drive a week.
Oh, that's a lot. Yeah, but I'm sitting apparently. So.
That's not the point. You're still doing it.
But yeah, so I worked for my dad for 16 years, 17
years. Oh, I didn't know that.
So from the age of 15, I say part-time because I locked myself in the toilet.
So you've done your apprenticeship then?
Yeah, that was my apprenticeship, yeah.
You've done it.
And then started Sarah's in 2007, so yeah.
Wow.
So I was working there for a few years with him, and then that was it then. So,
quick question. You supply him?
Yeah, my brother will probably be listening to this. Yeah, they're my hardest customers.
Are they? Good. They keep you on your toes still.
Keep you on my toes. That's it, yeah. So tell us about your latest, because we're gonna start wrapping up anyway. So what's your latest book is about diabetes, yeah?
Yes, it is. That's been out about a year now. That was there was a lot of parallels when we did the gluten-free angle, and then with other diet problems, and a lot of people wrote to me saying, "Phil, I'm lactose intolerant. I'm obviously a dairy-free," and then diabetes. People, I can't eat that, Phil. So B and I looked at diabetes. And essentially what you're looking at is a balanced, healthy diet. And so we went to Diabetes UK and said, book, and they said, go on then. It was difficult because you can't have anything high in salt, fat, sugar, obviously. It was a lot more restrictive than doing other books I've ever done. So it was a learning curve for us. It did very well. Diabetes UK obviously backed it, and we've just signed the contract to another one, which will be coming out. I've got to deliver it in June. Only 80 recipes, but it's going to be a lot more focused on a healthy diet.
Only 80
Well,
recipes.
if you think the gluten-free one it was 175 I did last time. So that's a lot of recipes. And we cook every one numerous times. So that's going to be more of a plan, more of a, I hate to use this expression, weight loss, but pretty much a healthy diet, you'll lose weight anyway. So that's we sort of woven into it slightly. It is more about a balanced diet. It's almost like a 2-week diet.
So you're going to be on the front like Joe Wicks, like
all my books like that, Stan, like Joe Wicks.
like you have your top off.
I wish I had Joe Wicks money. But again, B will be all over it. So it is a very serious book written for people with a chronic disease. So,
and of all the 12 cookbooks, which would you say is the most popular?
14.
14. Sorry.
Right.
Yeah. So what would you say is the most popular?
coeliac
By far.
I think we've written 4, and we must be getting on to 750,000 probably.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's as I said, from that very first day when she didn't want to do it, to now it's done very, very well. And then of course you get a lot of people jump on the bandwagon. I won't mention any names. There's all sort of spurious claims made about it, and thank goodness a lot of them have gone by the wayside. So we've stepped back from that a little bit now. And then when all what we call the chaff have gone away, then we'll come back in, because I'm still CELAC UK as National Food Ambassador. We still do stuff for them.
When you can get on with talking sensibly about things again, rather than all these big claims.
Oh gosh, I watched a BBC documentary on it. It was a nightmare. So I just steer clear of all that. I don't get involved in any of that. We just carry on doing what we're doing under radar, whether it's our mixes or batters or whatever. And my father had a great saying, and it was, "The cream will always rise to the top."
Yeah.
And that's great. That's what we're looking at.
So, biggest influences?
Chef-wise?
Whatever you think is relevant.
Cooking has been a massive part of my life. Keith Floyd, certainly. I love watching. I still got it on catch-up now, looking at his stuff he did, which is brilliant. Raymond Blanc certainly changed the cooking world for me when he came out, when he was in Oxford, the original Cat Saison in Summertown. 2 of my friends who worked for him it was like a breath of fresh air. Oh my God, it was fantastic, because he approached it from a different angle. Certainly Raymond Blanc. And even now, look at he did a programme on From Kew Gardens recently. I mean, his food is amazing and very, very clever.
It just makes me laugh when I watch him.
Yeah.
Adam.
Well, he's turned into a bit of a parody of himself in a way. But I still think his vision, fully 40 years ago, was amazing. I'm trying to think who else is.
So would Keith Floyd, would he have been an influence as a chef and for you when you started TV as well?
Yes, I think he crossed the boundary of the two, and I think because he could speak 2 or 3 languages, he knew the history of wine, he knew the areas of France, he was a bit slightly bumbling and a bit sort of, slapstick to a certain extent, but he knew the history of food as well. You got him on talking about the Ottoman Empire and how the food came from the Far East, and he knew what he was talking about. And so he could weave that in. The food, if you look at it, was almost incidental because it wasn't particularly good. But what he was good at is talking to people, having a laugh. He was a bright man. He would take the piss out of you. He would have a laugh. He'd swear. He'd get very, very drunk. But to me, it was not just looking at the food as the whole thing.
So were you ever around him a lot? Or?
I cooked with him once. He came to a cookery school with me, and he put his arm around me and got the picture on my computer, saying this boy's going to be a star one day. I'll never forget it. And I just liked his approach. And even now, there's certain things. I was in Trento cooking for ITV 2 weeks ago. And there's a bit where I actually say to the cameraman, "Here, Lee, not about me, look at this, Lee," like I used to say, "Come up here, Lee." And I do that occasionally. And I certainly, possibly subconsciously, model myself on the way he actually approached it. And I'm very like him in the way that he presents the camera.
Then he gave you some advice?
He's given me 3 bits of advice before he died, sadly. And one was, once you think television's the real world, you're in trouble. I'll never forget that. Second one was, you don't get the sack in telly, they just don't phone you up anymore. I think that's because BBC dropped him pretty much like a hot potato years and years ago. And the other thing he said was, which is quite interesting, and it applies to almost everybody who does television, is the hardest thing is to be yourself. Because as soon as you put that camera, or cameras, this morning we might have 10 cameras, people clam up, or they say gibberish.
Yeah.
Like my father. When my father first met my wife, he was like talking gibberish. I'm like, what are you talking about? There's nothing wrong with it. She's only, a woman. Oh, she's famous. That's Dad. There you go. Yeah. So people change when the focus is put onto them. Yeah. So there we are.
I didn't give you this question in advance, but it's something I ask everybody, and you may not have one.
Go on.
What book do you recommend everyone reads?
God, Stell, I'm not a book reader. I'm not a book reader. I don't have one in particular because I'm not an avid reader. All I read is food books. I don't mean recipe books. I mean food books. So I read things like The World History of Salt or the Sugar.
Oh, that's a good book, the Mark Clancy book.
Yes.
I like that book.
Yeah, Sugar, the grass that changed the world. I'm reading a book on pepper at the moment. I'm reading a book on Virginia hams. Virginia hams. So the pigs were fed on peanut stubble, and so the fat changed. So I read those sort of books. Regarding novels or fiction, I don't. I'm not a big reader. If I'm in that respect, I don't find novels interesting at all.
No,
perhaps that's lacking in me.
No, that's fine. But I think we should tell people to buy the book on Virginia hams.
Yeah, have a look at it. Or the Oxford Food Companion. There's a great book to read.
Really, that's a good one. The Oxford Food Companion.
Yeah, it's a massive. It's basically a dictionary of everything, a compendium of food knowledge.
No, I will say that's your recommendation then.
Yeah.
I think that's all right.
Okay.
Well, I want to say thank you for having me in your home.
Absolute pleasure, Still.
And thank you for the tea and the hospitality.
Winnie made it. I didn't make it. and here's to a great future for us, eh?
Yeah, definitely,
We'll keep getting up there.
Yeah,
but,
and I think we'll get you on again at some point. And,
so have a great Christmas.
You too, man.
And I will see you, Still. We'll see you before that. But next thing will be the Fish and Chip Awards. Perhaps we'll do a live. Yeah. Perhaps do a bit of a recording from there. What do you reckon?
Yeah. I don't know if I'll do it with all this gear, but yeah.
Hey, I need an iPhone.
That's it. Exactly.
Well, do you know what? Joking aside, the other day I did a live piece on an iPhone from Jersey with a microphone. They what's the word? What's it? We transferred it back. I flew back and they played that piece off an iPhone, 80 quality, and I came back and cooked it. Wow. So we can do it on that, no problem.
There we go then. We're doing it.
Okay. Cheers, Nell.
Thank you, Phil.
Thanks, mate.
Hey. Hey, everyone. You made it to the end. So, thanks for listening to this podcast with me and Phil. And like I said earlier, be sure to subscribe and leave us a review if you can, especially if you like what you've heard so far. And, we've got some really great people lined up especially over 2019. So, we really hope that you like what's happening, and we can't wait to tell you more. Thank you, guys.